Hi, everyone. My name is Lawrence Price, and today I'd like to talk to you about a brainstorming tool, a structured brainstorming tool that I've used with a lot of project teams. So just to kind of set up the context before I start talking about the template or the tool and process in this video. So a lot of times you bring a team together and you talk about what your goal statement is, what your opportunity statement is, and you would think that everyone is on the same sheet of music, only to find out weeks, months down the road that people had a different expectation of what was actually in the scope of the project and what things were out of scope. And so this exercise is really intended to use early in the project life cycle in order to get a project team or any group of people aligned on what it we're actually are working on. So I've used this obviously with project teams. I've also used it with people that were going to be change agents for me in different parts of the business. I've even used it with different key stakeholders to kind of bring them together and get everyone on the same sheet of music. So let me bring up my screen here and just kind of walk you through what this actual process is like. So the name of this exercise is called In and Out of Frame. And the reason why, as you can see from this visual here, it really is just a frame, a square that I can either draw on a whiteboard, or maybe sometimes I've used tape to tape it on the wall. And then people are asked or encouraged to put Post-it notes, both whether it's in the frame or outside the frame. And then sometimes people will put it on the border because they're not really sure. So let's kind of walk through the different steps in order to kind of pull this process off. So the first step here, of course, is, I always start this off by reminding everyone and refreshing everyone on the opportunity and goal statement. Sometimes instead of opportunity statement, some project leaders like to use problem statement. But whatever those two statements are, I like to put those in front of everyone and make sure that they're top of mind as far as what we're talking about. Then step two, I walk them through the steps of the exercise that we're getting ready to encounter. Step three is when I ask the team to silently brainstorm aspects that they are believed are related to the scope. And the emphasis here is on make sure that is a silent brainstorming. A lot of times, if you engage a group of people in some type of brainstorming activity, the vocal extroverts kind of dominate the conversation, and your people that are a little less inclined to speak up quickly are the people that are left out. So there's a couple things that I often do here. Is one, I emphasize the importance of being silent. And then also sometimes I put a cap on how many actual aspects of the project that you will incur in scope. So I'll say, minimum of 3, no more than 5. I also will, maybe color code the Post-it note. So I'll give, one person blue, another person yellow, another one pink, and things like that. That way visually we can kind of see as a group where everyone is at. Next, on step 4, still silently, I asked everyone to put their Post-it notes onto the picture frame. So the idea here is, if you think it's something that's definitely in scope, you put it inside the frame. If it's out of scope, you say, hey, I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is out of scope. You write it and you put it outside of the frame. And if it's something that you think people need to discuss, you put it on the border. And step 5, still silently, now all the Post-it notes are on the wall or in the frame or outside of the frame or on the border of the frame. You ask everyone to start reading other people's comments. And essentially, if there is a comment that you feel is in the wrong place, someone put it in scope and you think is out of scope, you can put a dot on it. So either I give people a marker or I actually give them like little stickers, and they can put a dot on that one in particular and say, hey, I think this is something that we need to discuss because someone said it's in the frame and I think it's out, or someone said it was outside of the frame and I think it should be in. And so after step 5 is when we finally get a chance to start talking. And so we start talking about all the Post-it notes that are either have a dot on them, or all the Post-it notes that are on the border of the frame. And we disposition each and every one of those. If we get to a point, and this is where step 7 comes into place, where we could not resolve one, right? So we got to one and we said, you know what, we really just don't know the answer to this. I asked the team to kind of give us some feedback or give us some thoughts on what ways or what steps can we take in order to resolve it. A lot of times, especially if you're talking to the project team, they're going to want you as the project leader or the change agent to go back and maybe talk to the key sponsor or the stakeholder, the sponsor of the project, or several key stakeholders to get their input. Sometimes if you do have the stakeholders in the room and they're unresolved on it, they may ask you to go and survey maybe the workforce and things like that in order to get more input, more data on whether or not that should be in scope or outside of the scope. And then finally, step 8, for just topics within the frame, the groups can start now saying, all right, these things are definitely in scope. Let's start building action items that we want to address to maybe move the project forward. So these are just great tools that I've used over the years to really understand and build a shared understanding with a project team, or like I said, the stakeholders, or maybe it's a change team around what the scope of the project is. So I hope that you find this tool useful and you're able to use it in some of your change activities with the project that you use inside your organization. Again, if you like this video, please feel free to give us a thumbs up, and definitely opt to subscribe. So thank you again, and take care.